Hello, my name is Jim. Welcome to my booktube channel about books and reading and stuff. This video is going to be my May wrap up and my June TBR. In May I finished 7 books. This is an improvement. January was 5, February was 5, March was 5, April was 6 and now May was 7. So this is good. In May I only read 3 of the books on my TBR. I did read 4 other books that weren't on the TBR. The 5 books I didn't finish, these will go into my June TBR. First book I finished was this. This is The Dead Stay Dumb by James Hadley Chase. This is a gangster novel set in Kansas City about a character called Dylan who he's a would-be Dillinger. He's very brutal. This was originally written in 1940 and this is a mass market paperback from the 1970s. It is what it is. We see Dylan make his brutal way to the top. First he's starting by rigging fights, then he's got a scam with these automatic machines, these gambling machines that he puts in various stores and extorts the money from them. There's no real way any punters can win much money from them. And he becomes a gang boss. The second book I finished was The Pear Tree by Ekvtimishvili. This wasn't on my TBR. I read it because it was a book from Georgian literature that's just come out. It's been nominated for many awards. It's on the Booker long list. I'll link to the video review of that here. As part of the Invisible Cities project, I read a book from Madagascar in May. This was The Return to the Enchanted Island by Johary Ravaloson. I'll link in the show notes below to my review on my blog. I started Scarlet Sins by Dane Cobain. This is a collection of short stories. They're very well written, they're quite dark, some of them are quite sad, and some are just creepy. The one that stayed with me the most is The Hanged Man. A man is found hanged in his attic, and the police read the suicide note, which is very interesting. I won't tell you what's in the suicide note because that will be a spoiler, but it's stayed with me a long time after the story. In May I joined NetGalley, where you can request ARCs, which are advanced readers copies. In return for these ARCs you're expected to give a review, an honest review when you've finished, to help the hype around the book. I've now read 3 books from NetGalley. The first was The Watcher Girl, the second In Dark Water, and the third Little Brother. The first book I got from NetGalley, an ebook, they're all ebooks on NetGalley, was The Watcher Girl by Minka. This is a psychological thriller. The author was new to me. I enjoyed this. It tells the story of Grace McMullen, who is about 30, who returns to her hometown of Monarch Falls in New Jersey. She's coming back home after a long absence of maybe 8 or 10 years because she finds out her ex-boyfriend has married a girl that looks incredibly like Grace, and they've even named their first child Grace. It's a strange story. You don't know who's watching who. I've been lucky with NetGalley so far. The 3 books I've read have all been good. The second book I read from NetGalley was Lynne McEwan's In Dark Water. This is a police procedural set in Scotland, very close to the border with England. D.I. Shona Oliver is working from Dumfries police station. She also works as a lifeboat rescue person, and at the beginning she's on the lifeboat and there's a body that's been washed up on the border between England and Scotland on the edge of the Solway Firth, and they don't know who the body is at first. When they discover it's the body of what they suspect is a prostitute, nobody's very interested. The top brass wants her to forget about it and concentrate on other matters. There's Operation Fortress, a big operation to bring in some drug dealers, and there's also a spate of thefts of baby milk that their top brass want D.I. Shona Oliver to concentrate on. Then there's the body of a Syrian migrant who is found, was dumped on the motorway, and Shona thinks there's a connection, but again the top brass don't want her to investigate. This was a very good police procedural. I could see it making a very good TV series. I enjoyed this a lot. Little Brother, or Minyan, by Ibrahima, Balde and Amets, Arzallus, Antia, is the story of a teenager from Guinea Conakry, who's from a very poor family. His father dies, his mother is in the village raising cows and sheep and goats, but they have very little money. And then one day his little brother disappears, and they find out he's gone to Libya to try to get a passage to Europe, and Ibrahima follows him. Ibrahima doesn't want to go to Europe, he just wants to bring his little brother back, and he has dreams of being a truck driver in Guinea. And it's about his journey across the Sahara to Libya and his experiences in Libya, in Mali, in Morocco and in Algeria. Sometimes he works making cement, mixing sand and water and cement for hours at a time, days at a time, to get some money for the next part of his trip. He's imprisoned, he escapes from prison, he's robbed. It's a very heartbreaking story, it's a very difficult story. Eventually he gets to Spain, where he tells his story to a Basque poet. This is Amets, Arzallus, Antia, and this is their story, Little Brother. All three books I read for NetGalley I've made reviews of in my blog. I'll link in the show notes below to my blog reviews of those. I might be doing some reviews on YouTube as well. Mary Barton is the classic I'm currently reading. I read one classic at a time. I finished Anna Karenina last month. I've only just started Mary Barton. I'm enjoying it so far. This is by Elizabeth Gaskell. I haven't read anything else by Elizabeth Gaskell. Has Steve read this? Of course he has, and I got a facepalm for this. And now on page 104 of Georgia in the Mountains of Hospitality by Peter Nasmyth. It's very interesting, talking about Georgian hospitality, supras. Peter Nasmyth's a vegetarian, but this was no problem in Georgia because there's a lot of foods which are classed as samacho, foods you can eat when you're fasting. I have 7 books on my June TBR. These include 5 books from my May TBR which I didn't finish, including Mary Barton, Mystery by Peter Straub, Georgia in the Mountains of Poetry by Peter Nasmyth, Scarlet Sins by Dane Cobain, and Winter Loon by Susan Bernhard. And to this I've added 2 new books. One is The Gambler by Dostoevsky. I read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, but I didn't like it, but I think it may have been the translation. Here the translation is by Richard Pevar and Larisa Volokonsky, who are very lauded for their translations of Russian literature, of Dostoevsky, of Gogol, Chekhov, and Tolstoy's Anna Karenina. So I'm hoping this will be a better experience. Also on my June TBR, there's The Thames Path Killer by Biba Pearce. This is another arc from NetGalley. I saw Claudia had made a video called It's a Numbers Game, looking at the analytics. On my dashboard analytics from my last video, the C tag, I see it's doing 4th out of the last 10 videos. My most successful video in the last 10 videos was the only one that wasn't a BookTube video, my visit to the Tbilisi Auto Museum. I'm clearly not doing BookTube for the view count. If you like this video, you can like and subscribe below, and I'll see you on the next video. Goodbye. Here's Abby, running off again.